Silicon Valley isn't just for California anymore. Other hubs for tech and innovation popping up all over the world. My next guest says 21st century Africa offers some investors and founders bigger opportunities than the so-called first world. He is no stranger to investing. He started his first company as a teenager, coming out of a safe house as the survivor of Rwandan genocide. The founder of the Mara Group and the author of a new book called The Lion Awakes is with me now, Ashish Thakkar. Ashish, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you so much.
So this book really is very personal in many ways. I mean, it represents your story, your family story, your survival story. Then there's also a very practical, hands-on business element to it. When you set out to write this, is this what you had in mind, a mix of personal and business?
I think the whole idea behind this book was to kind of correct this whole notion, the perception versus reality about Africa, about living there, about doing business there, about traveling there. So I think the mix of personal and professional kind of just gives people a real sense that it is real. We're not skimming on the surface of the real economic opportunity that's going on, but the safety and the governance and the transparency that's drastically has improved and is improving constantly across the continent.
So Ashish, for cynics, and there are many of them, there's numerous generations of business people who have already lost money in Africa. Even your fund, the FT, reported that you, as a superstar, set out to raise $400 million, didn't, fell short. What do you say to people who are saying, listen, even a homegrown superstar is having difficulty there?
Do you know, I mean, I'm really glad you raised this, actually, because Bob Diamond and I, when we started Atlas Mara, we raised $325 million of fresh capital. And in the second round, we raised $300 million. And that's what we wanted to raise because we didn't want to dilute ourselves too much. And a few weeks ago, and the reason was, which we obviously couldn't talk about, but a few weeks ago, we announced that OPIC has given Atlas Mara, the US government, DFI, has given Atlas Mara an additional $200 million. So actually, that 300 and the 200 came to $500 million.
In other words, just to stop you there, you raised more money than what you had originally set out to do.
In that sense, yes, because it was a combination of debt and equity, so that's absolutely right.
So when you speak with other would-be investors in any African business, what do you tell them? What do you say to cynics who say, okay, fine, maybe the governments are improving, maybe there's stability, but there's a lot of people who say it's just a mess?
So this is really important to understand, and which is what I've tried to address in The Lion Awakes as well, is the fact that we're a continent. We're not a country. We have 54 different countries. Every single one of our countries has its own history and culture and politics and parliament. How do you truly plug in that local manner? So hence, some of our countries are doing extremely well, and some are going through that challenge, but as a whole, 6 of the 10 fastest growing economies in the world are in Africa.
Speaking of Africa, what it wants, there was a very rich dentist who made headlines. He became notorious here in the U.S. for going to Africa, being on safari, poaching animals. Cecil the lion famously killed. What is your take on the view of Africa as a playground for rich North Americans?
You know, it is such a shame, and hence the focus on making people realize that, firstly, we're not an aid basket, so we don't need pity, we don't need people to feel sorry for us. At the same time, we're not a playground where people can come and do ridiculous things like this. We are an investment destination, and what we don't want is pity and people feeling sorry and all that kind of stuff, but what we do want is trade, investment, and partnerships, and that's what we're designed for, and that's what we're meant for.
Ashish, before I let you go, you are a standout. You thrived in conditions where most people just aim for survival. What is your best advice to entrepreneurs on any continent?
I mean, my personal advice is it is a journey, it's not a destination, and therefore I think it's important to be long-term. Don't have an ego, don't get caught in that rat race, because even if you win, you're still going to be a rat. And I think so it's very important to think long-term and don't cut corners.
All right. Well said, sir. Thank you so much, Ashish Thakkar, joining me there. He is an entrepreneur, an investor, and the author of The Lion Awakes.